everybody, and welcome to the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Look, on rain, shine, or anything in between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news that you so love, and this is another exciting edition of Nights in the Ville. So again, as always, or as of 99.9% of the time, I'm right alongside
Connor Baltazar.
And today it's just two of the boys from Nights in the Ville. One is on a plane, and the other is at a family dinner, I believe it is. But today we have Ethan and Hayes. By all means, say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentle ladies.
Amy. So what we're doing on this episode of Nights in the Ville is an episode that Connor and I have sort of been mulling doing ourselves for a little while now, and that is just looking back on a couple K-State football recruiting classes because, you know, we've done rankings of recruiting classes as they finish up. That's our anniversary special every year, but we've never really looked back at the different classes before, and that's what we're going to do today. And the first class that we're going to look back on is the 2019 recruiting class, also known as the Scramble class for Chris Kleiman. And boy, oh boy, this class is certainly something, a good something or a bad something. That's just something you'll have to listen to find out. But we do want to thank the sponsors of today's episode. That is, of course, Greg Arthur and Grandma. Thank you, Grandma.
Thanks, Grandma.
But we're just going to go down the list from the rankings on 24/7, and we're going to basically put them not into a tier list, but we're going to give them tiers from S being the best to who, as in the Snoop Dogg interview with the Breakfast Club, who. So, and yeah, we're just going to start from the very top of the 24/7 rankings, and that is the 88 3-star from Lawrence Free State, and that is Keenan Garber. Yeah, Keenan Garber was a 2019 guy, and I believe he was a package deal with Jack Stanine, wasn't he?
That seems to ring a bell. I know that term gets brought up a lot, and I never know how accurate it is that actually happens, but I believe it honestly. And like they both have been contributors to K-State. I think they both ended up being pretty solid recruits. But Keenan Garber, I always do forget that he was really a pretty highly touted prospect. He was one of the top guys in the state of Kansas that year. ESPN had him as a 4-star as well, I think. And this was again back when he was a wide receiver. And so it's been a while since he has done that for us. But he was really just a burner receiver that we wanted to see if we could mold into a finished product, and we couldn't, so we turned him into something else entirely, and that somehow managed to work out. But yeah, I mean, for a class that's pretty weird altogether, we start out with a unusually familiar name, which that's not going to be a very common theme going down the list of this class.
No, and I think the weirdest part is that, like, you kind of touched on it. He's not the impact that, because if we did this 2 years ago, Keenan Garber honestly may end up in like the middle tiers because he hadn't done anything at receiver, and now he's our starting corner. But yeah, I know where I'm going to rate him. I'm just curious to hear Ethan and Hayes' thoughts, and this is very similar to all the Nights in the Ville episode where y'all can jump in at any time.
I want to give Keenan his flowers before I start. I feel like he was a pretty underrated member of the 2022 team and Big 12 title game specifically, because everything broke down when our corners broke down on that team, and like you could see with injuries, and we were really in a tight spot. And he switched from the guy that every offseason we were told to look out for at receiver, and then never did anything at all, to a very important corner. And then, like you guys said, probably our number one corner now. And yeah, it's been really cool to see the transformation, but definitely a strange collegiate career.
Well, Garber's one of those guys who I think it's being hate on by everyone. Just like a real strange set of circumstances that actually ends up working out. And that's probably more rare than a set of strange circumstances where they don't work out. So kudos to Garber. Really, like Ace said, bumped himself up from a bottom tier to a middle to top tier ish.
I'd give him like a B. I'd give him like high B tier.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Exactly the same for me.
I think he has real potential to be A after this year.
Yeah, I was thinking high B. I'll slot him in A. Be different.
We'll slot him in A? Okay,
Yeah.
so the next highest rated recruit is Will Jones II, the cornerback out of Arlington, Texas. He was an 87 3-star. And this is going to be one of the few names that, like, because there's like 3 different types of people in this recruiting class for me. People I don't remember at all, people that I like have vague memories of, and people that have actually contributed something to K-State. And Will Jones is in that rare middle category where I think he started a little bit during the COVID season, but I don't remember anything else about him.
Yeah, Will Jones, he was kind of like the next man up there for a little while because he got the start as a redshirt freshman in a few games pretty early on. And he looked like he was going to kind of be like an important piece, like that infamous Arkansas State loss. He had an interception in that game. And that he kind of looked like he was going to maybe become a guy. He's from Mansfield, so this is 1 year after we got Malik as well, so he would have been high school teammates with Malik. So this is a pretty solid get, and he's also among the guys that transferred out. He's a rare case of someone actually playing at the location that they transferred to. He played the last 2 years at South Florida and had a pretty solid career there. His only interception still is at K-State, but he was in double-digit tackles both years, 32 total in 2022. So he was pretty solid. But there was a point there, especially back when we were still running a 4-2-5, that he was kind of like the nickelback of the future. And then like a lot of those guys in 2020 season just kind of up and left, had absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, Connor hit on a lot of that. I really, I just remember being like uniquely upset when he transferred out. I can't remember the exact timeline of like the rest of them transferring and whether he was first or the middle or whatever, but I just remember him being part of a big thing, and I didn't mind that much on a lot of them, but that Will was really the one that was a kicker. But obviously, in hindsight, not that big of a deal.
Will was a cornerback, not a kicker. Ace.
There you go. Yeah, that's really all I got on Will. I loved how he played nickel and then left and was a decent player for USF.
Yeah, I just remember like always asking myself, is Will going to play this week? Like Connor said, he was kind of like that next man up. He was a beast of a return man in my dynasty mode during that time frame. So that was always a good time. But yeah, I was mildly upset when he portaled, but that was like in the early days of the portal where it was like, oh no, our players are leaving. So, you know.
Yeah, it's before we learned that it just kind of happens. So to me, he's probably C tier to me. And that may be generous, but C tier is fine, especially considering he had a decent career afterwards.
I had him at top of C tier as well.
Yeah, I'll give him C.
Yeah, I think C is a pretty fair grade for him because he did something mildly productive in a K-State uniform and like wasn't a nobody like when he left. So
yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Now the next one is an 87 rated 3-star tight end from San Antonio, Texas, and that is Connor Fox, who was on the roster up until this last season before he transferred to Texas State. I'll give Hayes the first shout here. What do you think of Connor Fox? Because I know he was on the team. I have no thoughts on him otherwise.
Yeah, I can remember seeing a Fox tight end on the field as well. He did play some, and that's about all I've got. Shout out Connor Fox.
I have a couple things that I remember about Connor Fox. Not a lot, though. The first one, I guess, is more an observation, is he was, I think, a Snyder commit that stuck around with Kleiman in that last class. And he's an oddly athletic tight end for the role that Bill Snyder preferred his tight ends to have as the extra offensive tackle, pretty much. But Connor Fox, I mean, his career stats, K-State, he didn't really do a whole lot. Had 2 catches for 9 yards. And he had 10 catches for 117 and a touchdown this last season at Texas State. The lone actual memory I have of Connor Fox is an overthrow at home in like attempt at a game-winning drive in either the COVID season or the season following. I think it was the COVID season, and I think it was Oklahoma State. And I think after Oklahoma State scored or something like that, it might have been a different game. We were trying to throw it to him. He was running like a post, like 15 yards out, and he just got completely overthrown. But the reason I bring it up is because he like jumped out of his shoes. Like it was like one of the most athletic things I'd ever seen done on a K-State football field up until that point, and it was just a completely airmailed ball. So that is my Connor Fox memory that I'd like to share.
That's a great memory, Connor. You are right. He did commit to Bill Snyder. There's a picture of him and Bill on the internet. So love that. So the fun fact you'll really like, I think those of you, like based on the Lincoln Cure conversation we had last week, was it? You'll like this. When he transferred to Texas State, he honored how many yards he had at Kansas State. He switched to number 9, so kind of a beastly number. So, but yeah, Connor Fox, not one of my dudes on dynasty mode, so not one of my dudes in the list.
I just wanted to add that I thought what Connor brought up about him being like a different style a little bit, and he was more athletic on the like Bill Snyder tight end scale, but it's something kind of interesting that there's a couple guys in 19, but more so in the past, just players that were on the roster and somewhat like on the level of contributing that you just felt weird about because they just didn't really fit into what was going on, and they were just a whole different version of player. And it's kind of interesting to just watch those guys get phased out every year. I'm not really sure any exist anymore at Kansas State, but Connor Fox was definitely one.
Yeah, D tier.
Yep.
2 catches for 9 yards. You cannot do much better than a D tier, I think.
Ethan?
Oh yeah, it's D tier.
All right. Next up is another 87 3-star. This one from Hammond, Louisiana, and this is Tyrone Lewis, the safety. I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember him. I do not remember Tyrone Lewis. Ethan, you get first say for this one, but I do not remember Tyrone Lewis.
Yeah, I had to Google Mr. Tyrone, but upon Googling, I found that he had a really good career with the Rajin Cajuns. You know, he had like 46 tackles as a senior in 2022. Had 7 tackles, I think, against Florida State. So that might have been in garbage time, but still, like, playing against Florida State, getting some tackles, getting the pass breakup. But I did have to Google him, so if that alludes to where I'm going to put him in my tier, that
Any other thoughts?
I remember that there was kind of a lot of buzz about him prior to I think 2020 season, like in that spring, and there was kind of like, hey, Tyrone Lewis might be like kind of good, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth, and he was another guy that was in that like huge transfer portal exodus that took place throughout the latter half and into the off season of 2020, where the sky was really just kind of falling for a while. But yeah, I really don't have any other prevailing memories of him other than vague indications that he'd be like a really good safety, and he ended up being a pretty good safety for ULL. So those maybe weren't entirely misplaced, but another swing and a miss for the most part.
Go ahead, Hayes.
Did the 2020 season like end exceptionally early compared to normal ones? I felt like it started late and was somewhat on time. I was just curious because I saw he entered the portal on November 13th. It's got to be as early as hell.
Well, yeah,
that's my only Tyrone Lewis thought.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were told to like go away pretty like before the season even ended. It did start late. The season did start late because I think we only got the one non-con game, which was Arkansas State, which I still don't like thinking or talking about. But yeah, the entire 2020 exodus, we can talk about this now, was mostly locker room cancers who were told to go away. So
yeah. Tyrone Lewis is like the worst parts of Terrence Lewis and Tyrone Howell combined.
We do not tolerate Tyrone Howell slander in this house.
No, he's the worst part. Tyrone Howell's the good part. He's the worst part.
Okay.
It's kind of funny how you don't. Sorry, go ahead, Connor.
No, it's okay. I was just going to talk about the schedule from 2020. We did have a later start, being September 12th, but the season didn't end until December 5th. So he was in the portal while the season was still happening. In fact, he entered the portal, what'd you say, November 13th?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was in our bye week. So I think we might have done some cleaning.
Never lose to your bye week.
That was the week after Oklahoma State, and yeah, the week before Iowa State. So,
oh my god,
that was a brutal time.
God.
Yeah, who tier for me?
Who?
Oh yeah, I'll put him in the Who.
It's a good band. I'll put him in there too.
Next up is another 87 3-star defensive tackle from Chandler, Arizona, and that is Matthew Polomau. I remember him being mentioned. I don't think he did a single thing in a K-State uniform other than show up on campus and then leave. This is open. Anyone can take this. I don't know.
He has Tyrone Lewis beat. November 3rd.
10 days.
I told this before the show, but I'll share it with everyone. I remember Matthew Polomau for two reasons. One of them I did share, so I'll share that one first. And it's that the 2020 season, I remember, this is 2019. I lived in Jardine at this point, and I remember it was a very cold winter day, and I hopped on the bus to go to class, and he was at the same bus stop as I was in the morning, and I saw his tag on his backpack. I was like, yeah, he's on the football team. And so that's why I remember Matthew Polomau when most others probably wouldn't. The other reason I remember him is because he was like kind of like a pretty solid recruiting win that we got in that scramble class, because he joined up after we put the staff together, and we just kind of plucked him out of Arizona. And I'm pretty sure he was a 4-star on ESPN or close to it. And so this made me think that like defensive tackle recruiting was going to be really good. And it's been pretty much nothing but since that moment, with the exception of Uso. So yeah, I guess those are my two Matthew Polomau anecdotes. So I can't put him in. I'll wait. You guys go ahead.
So I will. I have two things on Polomau as well. first of all, he went to Chandler, which is where I think the Purdy's went to high school. So it's a good Arizona pipeline we could have had potentially. But then also he was a beast in my in my NCAA dynasty. So that bumped him up a tier, if you want to know.
Ethan was playing the exclusive EA College Football 19, apparently.
He was the only person that ever got that game. They were just secretly releasing it to only him.
Dude, Outrun Fire on the Xbox 360 kept me alive back in the days.
I'm going to put him in D tier, and the only reason I'm giving him that high of a ranking is because I know who he is.
Yeah. I got to put him in that tier as well because I saw him in person. So, like, I can't ethically put him in the who tier because, like, I've seen him before. So, like,
I'll put him on top of Connor Fox just because of the NCAA part, but he's still in D tier, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll give him D just because I do kind of remember him committing.
All right. Well, spoilers. These next four guys are all in who tier for me. Starting off with the 86 3-star athlete, Chris Herron from Houston, Texas. I remember nothing about him. Does anyone remember anything about him?
You won't believe this, but another gem from
in your dynasty?
From my dynasty. Actually, he might not have been a gem. I just remember seeing his name on the roster. Being back.
That's great, man. I have no idea who he is.
I thought he was going to be really, really good for like a month.
He was like, I remember him we got him and John Holcomb in back-to-back classes as our quarterbacks, and I really thought that we just like struck gold with like two back-to-back dudes, and I don't think either of those guys have like a functioning bank account right now in the United States. So like I don't think there's any way to locate them in the Western Hemisphere. And I think still Chris Herron, I do remember very briefly, I think we tried to move him to wide receiver. And I remember him getting like a jet sweep in a random game in 2019. And I think he portaled like the week after that. So I don't think he liked that very much, and he's no longer present. So,
is this a unanimous who tier?
I think it has to be.
Yeah, Hayes is nodding his head. Ethan just gave us a thumbs up. All right, for the second in this line of who's is another 86.
If I could find him, there's a Chris Herron who's running for election in Lenexa. So if you're running for you're in Lenexa.
I just wanted to note, I wanted to see about what Connor mentioned about him going to the transfer portal because now that's like my newest niche. It's not on record with 247. So
he may have left the country.
I think he fled.
He just disappeared, man.
It's like those random NCAA recruits that like just don't commit anywhere and then disappear into the aether. But
no, he ended up at Blinn College, I think.
That sounds right, yeah. And I'm seeing an article from the Wichita Eagle that says that he planned to transfer, and that was on December 19th, 2019. So, but
Wow.
do we trust Kellis with that, I guess, is the question.
So now we know that the NCAA roster was made in a 4-month time span.
The next who is a 5'10" and a half corner from Dallas, Texas, and that's Logan Wilson. Again, I have no memory. Yeah, who is this guy?
He had a good career elsewhere, if I remember correctly. Here, let me come back to me.
All right. Apparently, he transferred to North Texas, and now he's currently at Cincinnati.
Damn. All right.
This is, I think, the first guy that.
Texas, I think.
Oh, sorry. You go ahead, Ethan.
No, you got it.
I was gonna say this is the first guy that I genuinely don't have any recollection of. Like everyone else, I've like had something like some random anecdote or like, oh yeah, we tried that with him and it didn't work. I couldn't tell you the first thing about Logan Wilson other than he is allegedly one of our commits from 2019.
Nah, but like he was here. He was a 2-year starter and a team captain at North Texas. He had 112 tackles, 3 interceptions in 2 years from 20. Oh, he was All Conference USA honorable mention in 2022. So we'll see how he does at Cincinnati, I guess. But he was good in North Texas.
There's a non-zero chance we re-recruited him this year.
You're right. It's not 0.
So we're gonna have a Logan Wilson revenge game for Senior Day this year. Mark your calendars, everyone. I'm putting it in mine right now.
Throw out the record books for this one, folks.
I'm coming up on that game on my K-State Dynasty right now, so I have to circle that one.
Is he in the game?
I'll check.
Yeah, DB from Dallas. But yeah, he wears number 26. Hopefully he's wearing red for the revenge game because we red shirted him. So
good thinking, Ethan.
Yeah. So another unanimous who?
Yeah.
Okay.
At top of who? Just
top of who?
Ville. We're being generous here. All right.
Third in the long line of who's is Thomas Grayson from Tulsa. There's a 3-star 85 running back. Again, who? Apparently he transferred to Central Oklahoma afterwards.
You have no recollection.
And that who?
Yeah.
The name slightly rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you. No, it really does. I kind of remember him because I remember most of the running backs from this class because I was paying a lot of attention to them because we didn't have any when this class started. That, and I just checked, I just verified this. He went to the same high school as Tyler Lockett. Okay. So, fun fact. He didn't have the same career as Tyler Lockett. He just missed out on the Ring of Honor. But do we know how his Central Oklahoma career went?
I can check. Hang on.
I got him confused with Logan Grayson. I think the Georgia quarterback commit. I don't even know.
So is Thomas Grayson just another lost to the ages K-State recruit?
I think he's just lost to the ages because the only thing that I can find when I look up his name is his 24/7 sports page and apprentice plumber in Central Oklahoma.
Hey, well, good for him. That's a pretty good job. I mean, it's Oklahoma. It's probably not union, but it's still like that's solid work. Good for you, Thomas.
All right.
Molding young boys into men. That's what we do at this program.
The fourth who, at least for me, is Kenyon Reed from Long Beach, California, athlete 84. No recollection whatsoever.
I got nothing.
I also have an update, but Hayes, talk for me for a second.
Back to my transfer portal dates. The last guy was also November 3rd, which was the Wednesday before we played KU. I specifically remember a Harry Trotter rebirth in that game. But anyway, yeah, what a weird week. It wasn't a bye week before that either. That's all I got.
Yeah, so he transferred to San Jose State. Last season, he had 33 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a sack, and 3 pass breakups. And he is technically registered as a redshirt junior. So he has the most eligibility left out of anyone in this class.
That's kind of crazy. Now the next one I remember in 84, 3-star, 6'1", from North Kansas City, Missouri. And that is, he is listed as an outside linebacker, but for K-State, he was a running back. And that, my boys, is Clyde Price. Perhaps the greatest swag surfer in K-State history. That is his legacy.
That is a guy that I know, because I know when we were in the student section, Ace, that was someone that we always took time to point out was Clyde Price. So like I can't even like avoid knowing him. Like it's on record. There's like probably legal documents out there that like say that I know who Clyde Price is. I don't think I could point him out in a lineup, but I do know who Clyde Price is. And he moved on to Akron after maybe seeing the field a little bit on special teams for K-State. In 2022, he had almost 100 carries, but only 309 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he kind of had a LeGarrette Blount stat line. And then somehow that LeGarrette Blount stat line also transfers to his receiving numbers, because he had 31 catches for 139 yards, which is just horrifying. So he did a little bit there at Akron. Akron's pretty regularly the worst team in FBS, so I guess it's not saying a lot, but most people can't say they play D1 football like at all. So good for you, Clyde Price. I will never forget him, because we could always pick him out.
Yep. Any other thoughts on Clyde Price?
I guess I'm the dissenting opinion here because I don't remember him. I'm sad I missed this swag surfing.
Generational swag surfer, Clyde Price, and you missed it.
I do distinctly remember it being a big deal that year, but I don't remember him leading it. Probably because I just didn't know who he was.
I know him because of this podcast, or else I wouldn't know him. So
I gotta give him. He's D tier objectively, but S tier in my heart.
I'll give him like on the high end of D tier, because he does have some notoriety, despite I don't think ever seeing the field at K-State. Like the average K-State fan, not even the average, most K-State fans that like don't just hyperfixate on like one random guy on the sideline, I guess, aren't gonna know him. They're gonna put him in the who tier, but he'll get high D tier from me.
I'll give him the D tier because I respect his reputation.
Smart.
I'm putting him after Pola Mao because that's my guy in D tier.
All right, this one's pretty obvious where he'll end up going. It's a 84 3-star from Piper, Kansas, listed as a defensive tackle, ended up playing every position except for center on the offensive line. It's Cooper Beebe. I don't feel like we need to linger on this very long. He is the epitome of an S tier. He's probably one of, if not the best lineman in K-State history, so easy S.
Do we want a Ring of Honor discussion to break out?
Oh, yeah, we can bring up the ring. He belongs there. He belongs in the Ring of Honor.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I feel like it's almost too easy.
Yeah, I think it shouldn't be much of a discussion. The only reason that it is because there aren't any other offensive linemen there right now. But I think hopefully getting Cooper in there might open up the door for like a Nick Leckie that probably should be in there, but just like isn't, because we just like to ignore offensive linemen and their contributions for the most part. But he's easy S tier. It's also never not going to be funny that his 24/7 profile lists him as a defensive tackle, and he's probably the best offensive lineman that we've ever had. So
yeah,
there's always going to be a little bit of humor in that.
He did play a little defensive tackle.
Yeah, just a little bit this last year.
But he's my mom's favorite player. He's your mom's favorite player. He's everyone's favorite player from this class.
Actually, my mom's favorite player is Will Howard, but the next one is the dual threat quarterback, 3-star 84 from Columbia, Missouri, specifically Battle High School, and that is Jaron Lewis. Jaron Lewis will be the only person receiving an F on this entire list.
Come on.
No, I know who bro is, and I mean that in the worst way possible. I know who Jaron Lewis is. Didn't he go like 12 for 23 in his entire career?
Yeah, that's exactly correct. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay, let me get this. Let me see if I can get his stat line.
All right, go for it.
12 for 23.
Yep.
1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Oh, is it 2 or 3 interceptions? I think it's 2.
It is 2.
Damn.
Can you get
Is that
yards?
just the Oklahoma State stat
Oh,
line
can I-
that year?
Can I get yard? 240.
Under by a bit.
Under 187.
I'll give it to you. It's 154.
154.
Most of those yards were Oklahoma State. Almost all of them. 148 of them were Oklahoma State. 6 of them were that Nevada game where he played the second quarter. Because that was right after Skylar got hurt and Will was playing, and we did this whole song and dance where we gave Will the first quarter, then Jaron came in and played the second quarter, which I say this completely unironically. Like, he actually did look really smooth handing the ball off. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, it just, something about it was just really aesthetically pleasing, man. But then he threw one other pass outside of those Nevada Oklahoma State games, and it was probably one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen on a.
Is this the Baylor game?
Yeah, the Baylor game pick with one snap and throw about 5 yards behind a drag route that's maybe 3 yards in front of you. So, definitely a player, and also dual threat is doing some pretty heavy lifting in his description for a guy that had 5 carries for 3 yards in his college career. So
He's not really
Go ahead.
not really a dual threat. He's a dual suggestion.
Yeah. dual bench sitter because both of his cheeks are firmly on that bench.
Oh gosh.
Ethan, you were gonna say something?
I do have a story about that Nevada game. It was so hot. I fainted into Randon Plattner's then girlfriend. So, yeah.
That's actually where Connor and I met Aiden. Was at the Nevada game.
Yeah, we did meet him there, didn't we? Yeah.
Yep. And later that same year, when Jaron Lewis threw that interception, there was a bunch of guys sitting right behind us at the Baylor game saying like, "Oh, I hope Jaron Lewis comes in and not Will Howard." We all 3 turn around and say, "No, you don't want that." He immediately overthrows the drag route, and we all 3 turn around again.
I will always think fondly or strangely on Jaron Lewis's Oklahoma State game, just because the poor guy had to play a lot more than he should have. And that one touchdown to Deuce was really fun. I just think about that game all the time. Even the kickoff return from Malik to make it like 17-7, and we're like, "Oh shit, we're back." No, we were not.
we were in fact not back.
Didn't Malik have like an insane one-handed catch in that game from Jaron?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna, because Jaron had like on multiple occasions like some of the worst reads that I've ever seen in my life that like just happened to kind of work in that game. I think I know he threw it to, might have been Wheeler, I think, in that game, where like a guy just jumped the route so much that he overjumped the route and like ended up like throwing a first down. Like, 'cause I don't know. I don't know why I'm bringing that game up again, but that's one of those rare K-State beatdowns where like it got to the point where it was so bad it was just like kind of funny.
Yeah, because you and I were laughing throughout like the entire like second half of that game because we had just gone through so much agony that we just decided that it was easier to laugh.
Yeah, all the stages of grief were done by that point, and like we had reached acceptance, and that was just a strange game.
I went to that game with my boss. Shout out Greg, but it just made the whole experience stranger.
Yeah, Jaron Lewis is gonna be the lone F tier for me. Is there any dissent?
I didn't realize F tier was available, or else I probably would put a few other guys in there.
No, there are guys who like didn't do anything bad, or like they weren't active detriments to the team. They just kind of were on the team and then left. Jaron Lewis, I think, is the only guy on this team. Well, other than the guy maybe right after him for one game, that was an active detriment to the team.
Fair
At
play.
least on the field.
I was about to say, in this class, there's quite a few guys who can do that argument for, but.
All right, which speaking of, where's everyone putting Jaron?
I'll give him a D, but add a plus on it just because I remember him more than I remember anybody else.
I was gonna throw him in C tier just to make Twitter mad, but because of his mustache, I'm throwing him in D tier.
It's not great.
Which the next guy that I mentioned who is a detriment for one game, and that was the Oklahoma game, is Jacardier Wright, former my guy that I expected to break out. Yeah, that didn't end up working. I remember him, and I remember him being in the doghouse after that Oklahoma game. That's pretty much it. I thought he was going to be a guy as a running back, and then he turned into a pretty good running back at Missouri State later on. So for that, I think I'm going to give him like probably the very top of D tier for me.
Was Jacardier the one that like truck stick to Charlotte or North Texas player? Oh man, I'm way off. Oh man,
you weren't off by that. You weren't off by as much as like you're like that's only a 2-year difference. Mike McCoy was like 2017. Like, I think.
Watched Mike McCoy score 5 touchdowns in the Shrine Bowl and thought we had a Heisman winner.
That was a guy that almost was a guy.
But Jacardier was really good at Missouri State, and yeah, that's about all.
Yep, Ethan.
You can't spell Jacardier without D.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I also can't spell it without C. So I'm going to put him there for exclusively because the 2019 Iowa State game, he had 60 rushing yards in that game, including a pretty solid touchdown run at one point. So got to give him credit for that. So that's mainly what I remember him for. That, the Oklahoma fumble. But when I think of him, the first thing I always think of is Scott Wildcat never even once pronouncing his name correctly. Because he called him Arcadia, I think, every single time that he ever mentioned him on the podcast. Luckily, Jacardier Wright never became an important player against State, or else like there would have been even more pronunciation errors. But
also, there are 3 A's in Jacardier, but we couldn't even, like, that doesn't help anything.
Yeah, it's not an A tier. So, Hayes, I think the only one we're missing is your rating.
Yeah, I'll give him a C just because he had a really good non-K-State career. Not really good, but, like, pretty solid.
I think that's fair. Next one I think will be polarizing because it's a 84 3-star athlete from Tampa, Florida, and that is Joshua Youngblood. And boy, oh boy, the Joshua Youngblood is – there's a reason I think he's going to be pretty polarizing because his freshman season was really good as a returner. I remember him being an electric returner. And then his sophomore season, he like fell off the face of the earth, which granted, the entire 2020 team fell off the face of the earth. In fact, I don't even think we had a season that year. No, we didn't play that year. Actually, I think we played an exhibition against Oklahoma and KU, and that was it. But yeah, Joshua Youngblood, if he kept up his freshman return stats, he'd be like an easy A tier. But then you have to weigh the fact that he did nothing during 2020. So to me, it balances out to be like a high C tier. But then you also factor in everything else about Joshua Youngblood, and he just becomes like a middle C tier to me.
He is one of the most interesting guys in this entire class, I think. And it's mainly because it really seemed like he was going to be like the next like breakout star for K-State. Because I was talking about this earlier with my girlfriend. And now Youngblood, he in that 2020, like 2019 off season, like prior to the 2020 season, he had like surgery and COVID happened. And so he couldn't go home to rehab. So he like stayed at Coach Kleiman's like house, like when he was like recovering from his surgery. So that gives off the impression that those two are like super close. And then Youngblood, he transferred before the season was even done. And so that like took a 180 really, really fast. Just going from a guy that kind of seemed like he was going to be a breakout star, was a freshman All-American returner, and then ended up playing at 3 different schools. He played for Rutgers for a couple of years, and last year he was at Delaware. He had a pretty solid year at Delaware, but like 550 yards and 7 touchdowns. But after 3 kick return touchdowns his freshman year, he never got a kick return touchdown again.
That's so crazy to think about, man.
I was going to mention that. I think I didn't know the thing about Kleiman, but like that kind of reminds me of the guy from if y'all watch Swamp Kings, the Rainey guy who stayed at Urban Meyer's house and then he had his old issues too. So, but I think Hayes will really flourish with the timing of the transfer on this one.
Oh no, I'm on the wrong website. What is it? Oh no, I'm gonna have to look it up.
We'll stall for you because
you guys want to hear a fun fact about Josh Youngblood? Is that
also the fact that you're talking to your girlfriend about Josh Youngblood? That's great.
Passing. He's attempted 1 pass in his career, according to his ESPN stats. Can you guess the yardage from this pass?
Which school was it for?
Delaware.
Is it negative? Negative yards?
Yes.
-5.
18. -18 is his singular passing completion. -51.2 QB rating for that single completion. So listed as an athlete, not a quarterback. But I can do a bevy of other things.
You were right, Ethan. October 13th. Good golly.
What a poll.
Wow. Anyway, so I put him in C tier. Where is he going, everybody?
Yeah, C tier is good.
High C tier, I think.
I'll go low B tier just for the memories and not the bad ones.
That's fair. Next one, another 84 3-star, and that is someone who's currently still on roster, and that is Taylor Poitier. If he stopped getting hurt, he would probably be an A tier by now. But he keeps getting hurt, so I can't really give him any more than like B.
Yeah, he's had an unfortunate career with injuries, but he's just the 3rd guy on this list that is still with K-State, which is pretty sad, but I guess not too unexpected for a scramble class. Yeah, I think he's a really good offensive lineman that just hasn't been able to stay healthy. I don't have too much to say about him really because I think that's like the most relevant analysis.
It's not analysis, but I saw his family at a Chick-fil-A after the Oklahoma State game last year. So, not happy.
Not analysis, but it is interesting, though. Thank you for sharing.
Hayes is just tickled pink by this information.
Yeah, Taylor Poitier, I'm excited to get another full season out of him, hopefully. And Yeah, it is it's kind of funny what Connor said, that it's kind of sad that like only a couple guys are still on the roster. But if you told us when they signed that they'd still be on the roster in 2024, we would be very confused.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
So B tier.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
He's like a high B tier, I think.
Okay, Ethan's giving his approval for B tier. Next one, what's up?
Sorry, Ace. Sorry.
You're good.
I just always think it's really interesting to think about prior to the 22 season when he was supposed to be the guy on that O line.
Yep.
I'll never
That's
forget.
really it.
Kleiman was like saying he was the best offensive lineman on that team, and Cooper Beebe was on the roster. So, granted, Chris Kleiman is known for lying about his players.
Oh, dear.
Will Howard is the best backup quarterback in the country.
Was he wrong?
So
Yes.
you guys know the Rock meme? So imagine the Rock meme, but like Chris Kleiman saying I told Jerome that Tyler Perry was going to be the best shooter in the country. So everyone get the joke. Roughly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I approximately get the joke. The next one is an 83 3-star from Gainesville, Georgia, and that is outside linebacker who ended up becoming a defensive end, and that is Khalid Duke, who's also in this class. And to me, he's a NFL camp guy right now, isn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy A tier because he was like a consistent and constant contributor pretty much since he first started getting playing time in 21 was his first consistent action?
I think so. I think that he was, going to be a starter maybe in 20. I can't remember. I don't remember if he was going to be playing more in 20, maybe got hurt.
No, it was 21 that he got hurt.
No, that's right.
Because my Khalid Duke story was my first on the first day of lead 350, whatever the second lead course you're in. He was the first guy I talked to. Got to know about like where he was from and all that. Like thought he was like this cool guy. I didn't know he played football. And then because he was light at the time, and then he got injured and I never saw him again. So he was my best friend for all of like 5 minutes. I love you, Khalid.
Yeah, I don't think I can beat that. So does he get an A tier from you, Ethan?
It's kind of like Clyde Price. He's an A tier, but like he's an S+ tier in my heart. He doesn't know who I am.
I'm sure he remembers you, Ethan.
I think he's one of the only two going ahead, but like A tier players in this whole class. Yeah, I think he's pretty firmly in there.
Yeah. I mean, he had 26 tackles in that 2020 season. I don't remember if he was a starter, but he definitely played a lot. So if he had stayed healthy in 21, he would have been a 4-year starter for us. And that's with him randomly moving to outside linebacker in 2022 just because of necessity. So this guy's a program guy. Pretty much, like he fought through injury and like went through like complete like transformation to move to a different position and like held his own like as best he could and like ended up having a pretty good career. So yeah, he gets an A tier.
I do remember he like a few years after I met him, he followed me on Instagram. So like he did know who I was, guys. It's great.
You make a post, put him in your close friends, and
see if he views the story.
Yeah, he's listening.
Like the thing about my close friends, it's a football related story, I promise. But I forgot that I turned off everyone on my close friends except for Wobelin's brother. the Woolabin who goes here to K-State, whose brother ended up committing to Iowa State. But I put like something on my story about get Woolabin to commit to K-State, and only he saw it. And then like I left him as my only close friend for like 3 months.
You were doing your part to recruit, man. I mean, you got to appreciate that. The next one on the list, and since Khalid Duke's a A tier, is Jonathan Alexander, a 81 3-star safety who ended up having quite the career at Charlotte. Or was it Charlotte? Hang on.
Yep.
It was, yeah. I think it was Charlotte.
Yeah.
That story I was mentioning about buying him a drink, I got it wrong, and it was really awkward. I said North Texas, and he was like, no.
But yeah, I remember Jonathan Alexander's name being mentioned. That is the extent of my knowledge of him. D tier for me, I guess.
I have some stuff I want to mention about Jonathan Alexander, and the first one is that I remember he, in the first game of the Kleiman era against like Nicholls State, I think, returned a strip sack for a touchdown, I think. And then but the next thing I think maybe has been lost to the ages for the most part is that he was like kind of part of the impetus of the locker room breakdown in 2020. Because as the story goes, from what I recall, he opted out because a lot of guys opted out that year. And then we beat Oklahoma, and he had opted out because he was worried about COVID, but he was at the game and was like in the locker room post game and stuff. And so then he wanted to rejoin the team, and Kleiman said no, because we filled your spot already because you opted out. And I think he then started the locker room chaos. And I think it's a few different points. He like went on IG Live or like made some posts about K-State, and like was like when we talk about 2020 locker room stuff, it kind of at least publicly started with Jonathan Alexander. So I got to put him in the like 7th circle of F tier here for really destroying the K-State locker room completely.
I'm glad someone else remembers that, because I was going to say he absolutely deserves the F tier because he really was an active detriment to the team. If anything about him is true, like
yeah.
So
I think it's just one of those classic, like, the talent was there, the morale, the morals were not, because he played at 2 different community colleges before coming to us, and then I'm not sure if he got drafted or picked up, but he played for the Bears. So like the talent was there, he just wasn't that guy. The talent was there, Jonathan was not.
Yes, I'll upgrade my ranking to an F tier as well, because that's why I remembered him, because he was okay. I always get him and the guy who like tattooed the Power Cat and got arrested like 2 weeks later mixed up.
Is that Devontae Derricat?
I think it is.
Yeah, that's like a 2014 junior college guy, I think. Well, I don't know if he got arrested, but he definitely has a Power Cat on him, and then he transferred after like 6 months. But that's a whole other recruiting fight.
We'll kind of speed through the last few here. Trevor Stang, a 3-star guard from Coppell, Texas. Don't remember him at all.
Who?
I remember his commitment post because he was a legacy, and he had a picture with his dad's old K-State football helmet. And I thought that was cool, but he couldn't keep weight on, so he never played, unfortunately.
Hayes?
I have no thoughts. I have never heard of him in my life.
All right, so we got 3 Who tiers and a Connor. You going with Who tier? Or
I don't know tier.
Who knows tier? Next up is 3-star fullback, built like a mini fridge, and that is Jax Deneen. S tier. I will not be elaborating. No, he's like B tier, but S tier in our hearts. The Seawolf.
That bowling ball was so much fun to watch out there.
The Seawolf is what they called him back in the day, and he was really kind of the last true fullback that K-State might ever have, given how football is kind of going. So I've got to give him his flowers. I'm putting him in A tier.
Yep.
B tier. We stole because his older brother went to KU. He was a defensive tackle, and then we got Jet. So win.
Yeah, B tier.
All right. 2-star running back, 77, and that is Joe Irvin, who that's another one in the long line of he should be so good, but ended up doing very little. I am going to rate him higher than I gave Jacardier. I am going to put him in C tier, even though Jacardier had the better career afterwards. Irvin had the better K-State career, but only like marginally. Any dissent?
I feel like, did he do productive football in 2021? He was like a decent member of that running back room, wasn't he?
He was like not like super productive, but he had like I think a couple games where he was like marginally memorable. I think it was the Nevada game that he had like a 20-yard touchdown or something.
Because Deuce was Deuce's not breakout year, but like
he was
already
the
on the scene. Yeah, but he would have been the 2-back, I think. It was kind of fun having 2 really short backs. And the best thing. Oh, this is good. Every time Joe Irvin would run the ball, many people in the student section would go Deuce after because they just couldn't tell that it wasn't Deuce. That's all.
That's really too bad for swerving Joe Irvin, but yeah, I have him in C tier just because.
Next up is I don't think Ty Zentner was a 2019 commit. I think that's just when he came out of high school, and they're listening him like this because, well, maybe he could have had the COVID year for 22.
He may have redshirted. So
oh yeah,
he also might have like only spent 1 year at Juke. I don't remember. I don't know his life story.
Just for the Big 12 championship kickoff. Or like the game-winning kick for the Big 12 championship, I feel like he has to be an A for that reason and that reason alone.
No dissent from me.
He is one of my favorite punters to ever watch. He didn't punt. Never mind. He was a hell of a kickoff man. That's what I meant.
He punted. He was Legatron.
You know, I'll give him S for spouse, but A on the tier.
Right,
because he just got engaged to former women's Cats ball player Emily Ebert.
Oh yeah, that's right. Huh.
And he's on again, off again with the Titans, it seems. So
he was also a punter in the Mr. Hurricane Saints franchise. It's a fun fact for you.
That's a fun fact. It's a really fun fact.
Next one is certainly a who. Who is Trey Eaton?
No idea.
Not a clue.
He's a tackle, but who?
And then the last guy on this list is going to be another A tier, and that is Austin Moore, who's arguably, I don't even think it's arguably, he's the best defensive player on this list. And he is rated, not only is he rated as the lowest guy of the commits, on 24/7, he's actually listed twice because one of the times they spelled his name wrong.
Oh, man, that's his twin. We only gave him a letter of intent.
And you got to love that they cared just enough to make an account with the name spelled correctly, but not enough to delete the old one. So an interesting level of caring, but also not at the same time, that I don't quite understand, but do have to respect a little bit. And it's also a little surprising he's even listed, because he was a preferred walk-on, and more often than not, those guys don't get listed. But I'm assuming Trey Eaton was also, whoever he is, I'm assuming he was also a walk-on. So it's occasional those guys get listed, but it's surprised to see Austin and Osterton more listed here.
I'm going to pose the question: what does Austin have to do this year to get into S tier?
Make an all Big 12 team.
Okay. Well, that's not okay. That's
I mean like be first team. I mean
end of discussion, I guess. In other news, I went on to Jonathan Alexander's Twitter page, and his last tweet was him doing the look up challenge, where it's like do the cross thing. I don't. Yeah. Anyway.
Huh.
Are the tiers a year relative based, or like everything? Like, is S tier the same across the board?
I've just kind of been doing vibes based, man. Like it's your world. You do whatever you want.
I'm gonna throw him in the S tier then, because I think he is a lot. He was a lot more important to the last couple of years than he gets credit for, and now that Jake Clifton decided to go on a mission, he's going to be even more important.
I don't know what mission could be more important than K-State football, but clearly Jake Clifton seems to think that
he's one of the best players on the video game, and it really made me sad.
I know. It really is annoying me.
You can't edit his name either.
Hopefully roster updates will take care of it, but it's still a little frustrating.
I had Austin Moore in S tier as well in my original list, so I'm going to bump him up to S tier as well. Thank you, guys.
All right. So before we wrap up, any final thoughts about this 2019 recruiting class?
Are we really
sucked?
Yeah, it kind of sucked. Like outside of 4 or 5 people, this class is awful.
But the thing is that it felt like a majority of this class either did nothing or very little at K-State, or was like a bona fide guy. Like there aren't many guys that just stuck around to be contributors, or like at the very least there aren't many guys that like were around the team and like weren't like a nucleus of destruction, like try and like bring about like woe and like dishonor to the K-State program. Like a legion of demons was brought in with this class. And
who else? I don't know.
But man, the guys that hit, like they were really great. Like your Austin Moores and your Cooper Beebe's, even like Keenan Garber, he's really like turned a corner and become a dude. So like, yeah, weird class, but also not a class that I think we could replicate if we tried, because it's such a unique set of circumstances with turnover on coaching staff, a lot of roster churning, then also COVID years that come into effect later. And also, I think 2019 was the first year that the transfer portal like officially existed, and it was the first year of the 4-game redshirt rule. So lots of roster stuff was changing around this time. And so just really strange circumstances all around.
Yeah, very strange circumstances. Anyone else have any final thoughts before we sign off?
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say. It symbolized the time period. But I also wanted to give a shout out to some of the transfers. We had 3 transfers. Like it was mentioned, we had no running backs on the roster. So 2 of them were running backs, Jaden Brown, and obviously one of the most underrated. We talked about it pre-show, so I thought we might as well mention him on the show. James Gilbert, a beast in my dynasty mode and in real life. And one last 2, Kenny Givens. Who? But,
yeah, I have no idea who that is.
He was a commit that we missed, I think.
Huh.
But he ended up, I think, having like one tackle at like Eastern Michigan or Illinois State or something like that. I don't know. Yeah,
What's
James
his
Gilbert.
class?
He was pretty good.
He's going to be a forgotten dude. Like we were talking about this pre-show, but James Gilbert is going to be like a forgotten dude.
He like comes from the Daniel Thomas mold of really good running back on not so good teams, and we just forget he exists.
Yeah. Although his is like less extreme because he was like slightly worse on like a better team, whereas Daniel Thomas was way better on way worse teams. Like that 2009 team, like I look back at like that roster and I don't know how they like hit 500. Like genuinely, it's a miracle that team was able to get past the 50-yard line on multiple occasions, and they won 6 games. So good for them. Shout out Grant Gregory.
This class,
yep.
The 2019 class, just it kind of makes me wonder how much different it would be if, like, in some vacuum, Bill Snyder, or maybe we'll say for the sake of this, he handed off to Sean Snyder and achieved mediocrity. And somehow achieved mediocrity for his self. And then Chris Kleiman came in like this year. It reeks of a class that would have had like 20 transfers and like 5 high school signees, because they at the time they just kind of had to fill them and hope. And yeah, that class was bad.
Yeah, I think that pretty well wraps up everything. So thank you all for listening to this episode of Nights in the Ville. If you want to support the Aggieville Alleycats, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at AC Edwards.
I am at Connor Balthazar, capital C, capital B.
And if you two want to plug your Twitters, you don't have to, but you can.
I'm Ha Hungate if you really want to.
I'll do it this week. Hold on, I don't really know the part. I'm the capital real _ Ethan Brown.
Capital real. And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official supporters link or the Aggieville Alleycats merch store, both in our podcast and Twitter bios. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of Nights in the Ville, and stay safe, Alleycats, as always.